like to welcome all the veterans and their friends and family, and a special welcome to Mayor Ron Jones and all first responders, our police department, fire and EMS, and all, of course, the employees of Hicksville Hospital. We'll do posting of the colors, so please stand.
Post your colors. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Order. Raise.
Pledge allegiance now. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She seated? Yes.
Remain
Chaplain. Okay.
remove covers.
O God of hosts, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories thou hast granted us, to us and to those peoples who have united with us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed. We beseech thee to bring the blessings of understanding to the families and friends in this and other lands of those who have given their lives that men may be free. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobling light of sacrifice for civilization, sacrifice for a better world for this and other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to live with the family of nations around the world, that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us patience in planning with other fellow men and women a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Touch thou the souls of people in every land with the enduring light of wisdom, so that they may form a brotherhood which will strive to further the arts of peace under laws and ethics blessed by thy love. Grant us now thy continued blessing upon unity and strength that makes victories possible in war, that we may win greater victories of peace. Amen.
Be seated. This next introduction here, most of you know, but Mick Prokratsky, he's well known in the area, in the whole county. He was just re-elected to the second term of one of our commissioners, and it's great to have representation up here on the West End. So, but Mick has been a lifelong resident of Hicksville. He is the son of the late Stan and Betty Prokratsky. His father, Stan, was Legion Post 223 commander for many years, so you older people may remember that. He is married to his wife, Pam, and they have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. Mick attended the Hicksville schools and was very active in sports. He attended Defiance College and was a Defiance County Juvenile Probation Officer for 27 years. A very positive influence on many Defiance County youth, I'm sure. Mick also spent 20 years on the Hicksville Village Council, helping to shape the important decisions of the village. Mick was just, like I say, elected again for his second term as county commissioner. So, Mick.
I'd like to welcome everybody here today and thank you for coming. And I'd like to especially welcome the veterans and thank you for your service. I would also like to offer congratulations to the Edward C. Smart American Legion Post 223 on the occasion of their 100th birthday. Some years ago, I went looking for a set of all-time Hicksville High School football records, and I didn't find anything anywhere. So I made a decision to create such a set of records myself. And at the same time, I made a decision to jot down the name of every kid that ever played football for Hicksville. I thought this was going to be a quick endeavor, and as it turned out, I ended up spending months and months and months in front of the microfilm machine at the Defiance Library. While I was doing that, I started recognizing all kinds of other little interesting stories about our village. And you all may have seen some of those stories in Jim Battershill's column that he titled Tidbits. One day when I was looking for football information, excuse me, I came across the following story. In 1917, the following boys left Hicksville High School to join World War I. Ray Elliott, Virgil Bly, Elwood Saunders, and Edward Smart. Indeed, the very same Edward C. Smart that our Legion is named in honor of. And I also found the name Edward Smart in our football roster at Hicksville in 1914, 1915, and 1916. A few weeks ago, Ed Foster asked me to speak today, and I did everything I could to talk my way out of it because I'm not a very comfortable public speaker. But more importantly, I'm not a veteran. I didn't serve. I've been to a number of these types of events over the years, and I find them very honorable and humbling and sobering, but never in a million years would I figure me would be worthy to speak at an event like this. But Ed assured me that as much as anything else, he was looking for somebody that would have a unique memory about our American Legion. And as was mentioned earlier, my dad was a post commander here for a number of years, 50 years ago. And my brother Mark and I, at that time, were of an age that we tagged along with our dad everywhere he went. I remember walking his mail route with him a couple of times. But after I thought about it, I figured maybe Ed was onto something. Maybe I do have a unique memory that's worthy of sharing today. After I got done talking to Ed, two things happened to me. The first thing was I was literally flooded with memories of my days at the American Legion all those years ago, and I would like to share a few of those memories with you here today. I can remember when the basement of the American Legion didn't have a bar. It was just an assortment of tables and chairs. I can remember a small room behind where the bar currently is, a kitchen of sorts. I remember a big utility sink, and I remember an old refrigerator that held bottled beer and cheese. At the opposite end of the basement, I recall a long, narrow room that I always kind of found, at least back in those days, I found to be dark and cold. Now, I understand today part of that room is used as the post armory, but back in those days, it was an unfinished room in the basement. And somewhere in the very farthest reaches of my mind, I have a very faint memory of an old military uniform being in that long, narrow, and dark room. And I sure would like to get that verified because that's been driving me crazy since I was asked to speak today. I can distinctly remember Claudie Slaughter playing shuffleboard. He would let that puck go and he would literally contort himself almost to the point of being upside down, using sheer willpower and body language to get that puck to go to where he wanted it to go. And he talked to it the whole time it was moving. I can remember my brother Mark and I going with our dad in Bud Cromwell's early 1960s green Chevrolet pickup truck to John Elliott's Market on State Route 18. We would fill that truck up with cases of bottled beer, and Dad would take us back to the Legion. And we would carry all those cases into the basement. And I've had a couple of weeks now to ponder on that particular memory. And every time I think about it, I think that my brother Mark and I did most of the work. Back in those days, Fort Wayne had a semi-professional football team called the Fort Wayne Tigers. And for some reason, the Fort Wayne Tigers played their home games right over here. And I don't know why. I suspect it might have had something to do with Beefy Camp, who played on that team, but I really don't know why. What I do remember is my dad inviting the Fort Wayne Tigers to the Legion after every home football game to get something to eat and something to drink before they went home. I also remember a number of fundraisers that my dad spearheaded through the Legion those years ago. One that comes to mind is when he invited to Hicksville a group of semi-professional all-girls basketball players known as the All-American Redheads. And then my dad recruited a handful of guys out of the Legion to play a game against the Redheads at the high school. And if memory serves me correctly, my dad should have recruited somewhere else because the score was terribly lopsided. But I also remember those guys having a good time, and I suspect it was a good fundraiser. Another fundraiser that I recall was when they wrote a letter to every known Hicksville High School graduate asking for a donation to put new lights at the football field. And just the other day, I was at home, and I got an area that kind of like an office-like area, and I was going through some stuff, and I was looking on top of a bookshelf, and I had a real pleasant surprise. I found on top of that shelf a long, old manila folder, and I was pleasantly surprised because I thought I had given that information to Bill Metz some years ago as a seed for one of his stories that he wrote for the Tribune, but here it was at home still. As soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. That folder contained all the information from the football field lights fundraiser from 50 years ago. It was dated 1970. Curiosity got to me. I pulled it down and I started going through it. And this folder has all kinds of different information in it, but the thing that got my attention was the ledgers. These ledgers contained the name of every person who donated and exactly how much they donated. And I had read these ledgers a number of times before, but on this particular occasion, one of those names literally jumped out at me, and it was the name of Virgil Bly. You may recall he was one of those original 4 boys that left Hicksville High School to go to World War I, and here he was 50 years later donating money for the school through the Legion. And here I am 50 years after that telling this story. And to me, it just seems amazing that all these little pieces of the puzzle came together to create such a vision for that I could speak about here today. Perhaps the most important thing I remember at the Legion is the veterans. I can remember at least one World War I veteran, and his name was Walter Blaylock. Now to me, he was Mr. Blaylock because I lived in his neighborhood. He lived on Smith Street, and to this day, I can still see Mr. Blaylock walking out his back door, through the backyards, and into the back door of the Legion. I can also remember a number of World War II veterans, guys like Claudie Slaughter and Bud Cromwell, Vern Keener, Wayne Smith, Bill Hinch, Tony Tomachek, and I know there were others, but for some reason, those were the guys that came to my mind. But I think the thing I remember the best are the days when my dad was welcoming home the kids who were returning from Vietnam. Guys like Donnie and Larry Payton, Billy Warden, Skip Hitzman, Carl Clark, Mike Bell. And again, I know there were others, but those are the ones that come to my mind. As I mentioned earlier, after I spoke to Ed Foster, 2 things happened to me. The first thing was the memories that I've shared today. The second thing caused a cold chill to go down my spine, because it was at that point that I realized I really didn't know anything about the American Legion other than a handful of memories from a 10 or 12-year-old kid from 50 years ago. So I knew it was time for more research. I went to the computer and I Googled the American Legion, and hundreds of things came up immediately. And as I was reading through those things, I decided to jot some of those things down that I thought was important, things that I was learning for the first time. And I'd like to share some of that with you as well. I learned that 20 officers of the American Expeditionary Force are credited with founding the American Legion in an initial meeting in Paris, France in March of 1919. I learned that one of those officers in particular was credited with the idea of creating a service organization for veterans, and that man's name was Colonel Theodore Roosevelt Jr. I learned that the very first American Legion, Post Number 1, was appropriately in Washington, D.C. I learned that the Legion with the longest continuous service is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I learned that currently there are over 2.5 million American Legion members and over 12,000 American Legion posts. I learned that American Legion Baseball started on July 17, 1925. And I found that important because my son played American Legion Baseball out of the Van Wert post. I'm not sure when that stuff was put online, but at that time, over 50% of all Major League Baseball players played American Legion Baseball when they were younger. I learned that on June 23rd, 1935, the very first American Legion Boys State convened in St. Louis, Missouri. And I learned that I could write a bunch more things down and talk about a bunch more things, but it's cold today, so I have to stop somewhere. So lastly, I learned that on August 26, 1982, the American Legion presented a $1 million check for the construction of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. In closing, I would like to believe that my dad would be proud that our Legion is still standing, and our Legion is still serving, and that our Legion stands ready to receive the next generation of American veterans. Thank you. I do have a presentation to give you as well.
Also about Mick's dad, he handwrote letters to a lot of us when we were on active duty, and I still have one of his letters at home.
We have presentation proclamation acknowledging. I have a proclamation acknowledging this special day from the Defiance County Commissioners and a Defiance County flag. I also have a proclamation from Craig Riedel, our state representative. This is from the state House of Representatives in Columbus. I also have for you a proclamation from Rob McCauley, our state senator. And I have a proclamation to present to you from Bob Latta, our U.S. Congressman. And with that comes a flag that was flown over Congress. So there you go. Congratulations on this wonderful day.
I think Mayor Jones, you want a few comments? I had a nice warm chair up here for you.
Okay, and as I was sitting over there in the parking lot, and I looked up at that flag, American flag, just brought tears to my eyes. I want to thank the veterans. That's the freedoms we have. That is a beautiful sight, and I hope it stays there forever. Again, thank you. As Mayor of Hicksville, I'm proud to read this proclamation. Edward C. Smart, American Legion Post 223, Centennial Celebration. Whereas the American Legion has been a staunch advocate for veterans and their families since 1919. Whereas the American Legion was founded on the 4 pillars of care for veterans, a strong national defense, Americanism, and children and youth. And whereas the American Legion has played a leading role in initiatives and breakthroughs that have affected the lives of Americans in every community, from the U.S. Flag Code to the GI Bill, and whereas Post 223 has fulfilled the Legion's mission since 1920 through programs such as the Honor Guard for veterans' funerals, including a flag ceremony and 21-gun salute, participating in parades for Memorial Day and Veterans Day, sponsoring an Americanism essay contest at the high school, community fundraiser, most notably this beautiful memorial. The Legion has also an auxiliary and Sons of Legion organizations. Whereas the American Legion is celebrating its centennial in year 2020. Now, therefore, I, Ron Jones, Mayor of Hicksville, Ohio, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2020 as American Legion Day. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused to be effected the official seal of the Village of Hicksville on this 11th day of November 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone that would like to see all these proclamations and things, I'll have them up here, or we'll have them on the wall in the Legion Hall. You're welcome to come up. Okay. Honor Guard.
Detail 10. Present. Or. Detail. Prepare to honor all veterans, past and present. Ready. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Order.
This concludes our program. I thank you all very much for attending. I know it's we could have had a little warmer day, but I think we have colder days coming. But one last thing, I'd like to advertise our donut sales. The Legion's going to have a fresh hot donut sale this Saturday morning, starting at 8 o'clock. You know, it's just a drive-through. You drive through and tell them if you haven't already pre-ordered how many dozens you want, and we'll take care of you. So thank you again for attending, and to all veterans, have a great day. Absolutely. Anyone that would like to sign up for the American Legion, or if you have children, they can become sons of the American Legion. And our numbers are shrinking, so whatever you can do, we'd appreciate it. Thank you, and have a great day.